Spectrum Podcast.
Typecast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the brand new episode of the Spectrum Podcast, the Unveil season, which this season is all about the unveiling the unseen field and the roles that make the creative industry what it is. I'm Ahmadin, and hosting with me today is.
Hi, I'm Nisa. So, behind every exhibition and museum is an overlooked role, the very people who make these exhibitions come to life. In today's episode, we'll be learning more about the role of curators and what we can learn about curatorship in the creative industry when we compare the similarities and differences between two curators from different fields. So, without further ado, I want to invite our lovely guests to introduce themselves.
Rock, scissors, paper.
Okay,
I'll go first.
Hello everyone, I'm Zubaidah Ahmadin and I'm the exhibition leader of Brunei History Center, and it's been 5 years now working for Brunei History Center, and I would like to introduce as well, Brunei History Center is not only exhibiting galleries, but we also focus on researching and also collecting evidence of the history of Brunei as well as the Sultanate of Brunei.
Oh, okay.
Hello, good morning, everybody. I'm Osveanne Osman. I'm curator at Creative Space Art Gallery and Studio. And what we do there is to be able to provide a platform for artists in Brunei. For me, myself, as a curator there, I focus on contemporary art, and particularly young and emerging artists, as well as our third generation veteran artists.
So, obviously, in this episode, we'll be talking about the curatorship. So, it's easy to say that people who manage exhibition, but that does not give justice to the role. So, can you explain to us what are the roles and the responsibilities as of a curator?
To me, is more on the what the subject is, what object are we going to present. So
okay.
the product.
Yeah.
Okay. So in most museum they have the artifacts. In most art gallery they have the artists. But in Brunei History Center we don't have all those. What we have is that we have the evidence of Brunei history. So that is our product. Okay. So my role is trying to make this product to be accepted by the audience or visitors, to be educational, based on exhibition, based on activities for the galleries as well. Other than that, it's important to taking care of the galleries. Okay. So you have to take care everything through from the flooring to the lighting and to the object as well. Even though we don't have that much objects, but we have the old manuscripts. So those old manuscripts is cost about thousands. So you have to take care of it. And other than that, I think managing and selecting exhibition is part of the curatorship. Yeah.
So about the old manuscripts, so how do you usually take care
Taking
of it?
care of
Yeah.
We have different kinds of sections. So one of our section under Brunei History Center is to protect this kind of manuscript. They have the processes that they do. They clean it. They do something on what we call this simpanannya.
Ada cara-caranya.
Cara-cara simpanannya. So we have to look through everything and go to the experts lah for our services.
Okay.
What about you, Osveanne?
Okay. Of course, it's very similar because that is the roles and responsibilities of a curator. I think what I'll do first is I'll clarify what exactly is curating and then tie it into what similarities I share with Zubaidah. So curating, a clean and simple understanding of it, is basically collecting, taking care of, and developing a collection. That's just the clean and simple part of it. The other things that are involved in it, and I'm not touching on an exhibition value first, is when you're talking about care and everything and development, that's where all the research comes in. You have to start thinking about how you build your databases and your archives to understand and keep your research. So there's a lot of different segments where people can, specialize in. In an exhibition value, what does curating mean, or how does it come into form? Is basically, number one, it always starts with research first. Yeah, it always starts with research first, because you have to understand what kind of dialogue you want to be able to create. So research first, and then engaging and inviting or choosing pieces for your exhibition, and then being able to reinterpret it. And this is where a very big part of the curator's creativity comes in, through the collaboration of retelling a story through the works of artists, or through artifacts, or through objects.
So, meaning to say, you have to come up with a theme first, kanta. So,
Not necessarily a theme first. You need to come up with what is the pressing question. So it's like writing a thesis.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
macam what you guys
Yeah,
want
what's
to show.
the dialogue going to be about?
Okay.
Or what's the pressing question that you need people to talk about?
Macam, how would the process of you collecting the artworks? Is it relate to what the research is, or macam the people who volunteered? Oh, I think this is it. Macam tu.
I think to kind of like clarify that a little bit more is, naturally, whatever artwork or objects, depending on what your specialty or what you're curator of, that you collect, is going to be central around what your research is based on. Because it is very important for you to be collecting those kind of pieces, because you have to develop your collection. So if you think about it in like art history form, for example, is I started the gallery side of Creative Space in 2016. Yeah. And we've been archiving, recording, and collecting emerging artist pieces from 2016 up till 2023. So it can fall under, many different genres. For example, it could be digital art, or it could be oil paintings, traditional art. But it's all falling under contemporary, because we're looking at the years that I have been able to observe and record the contemporary art of the year.
Yeah. So within the 7 years, how is it like?
Oh, how do you calculate that so
Yeah,
far?
2016 and now it's 2023. So
My math, I cannot math.
how is it like? How I would say macam the experience of doing the research and collecting the art.
So I would say it was a very tough journey, naturally. Because when I came back and when I started, and I want to hear from Zubaidah as well, when she
Yeah.
came back and when she started, what was it like? There was hardly anything, and this was because our veteran artists, third, fourth, fifth generation, were all on a 20-30 year hiatus. So there were no exhibitions, no art shows, etc., because they were all focusing on their careers, on their families. So when I came back, it was like the plateau right before a lot of graduates who
Yeah.
were taking art
Yeah.
were coming back, and also the cusp of where all of these veteran artists were reaching retirement. So after I came back about 2 or 3 years later, suddenly the art scene boomed. So that was very good. But in the start, it was very difficult, because it almost seemed like everybody forgot, or didn't care, or didn't place a value on art
Yeah.
or art history, or even, simple things that we take for granted, of being able to go to the museums and using that as a way for us to learn our own culture. Yeah. So the mindset, as well as how people were receiving arts or culture, was very mild, almost non-existent, you would
Here
say.
in Brunei.
Yes. So it was a struggle, but then, alhamdulillah, later on, about 3 years later, it really started to pick up. And I think it was because the art community came together. So the veteran artists came back, and then they were also willing to be able to work with the new and emerging artists.
Oh.
How about you, Zubaidah? How is it for you?
To me, a huge way or a platform, your gallery is a platforms to these young artists as well as the veteran to come up with their artworks and reveal their own style itself. Yeah, I think it's a great opportunities for them. And I myself have the opportunities to collaborate with them as well. Yeah, I think that's a huge, window for us, yeah, as an artist as
Yeah,
well.
to become that exposure in a sense. Yeah,
Mhm.
because I was not exposed to any of this art
Mhm.
exhibition
Mhm.
before. I mean, Mas Andi pun Borta ada exposure because I was in this field. Because of ada macam you guys do the creative space, apa itu ada exhibition apa, Borta macam oh rupanya ada
Mhm.
this kind of thing in Brunei.
It's quite hard to, unlike luar negeri kan, I mean, there
Yeah.
are a lot of galleries, but when you come to creative space, wow, ada macam ni.
Yeah, yeah, itu tuh.
Macam luar negeri lah. You know, I've been apa namanya ni, studying in London as well as in Perth, so I know what kind of galleries that are being exhibited.
Oh,
So
yeah.
coming back in Brunei, macam ada kah gallery macam ni? Okay, yes, we have.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's the window for the artist lah.
Yeah, yeah.
We move on to the next question. So we're aware that both of you have a background in arts, right? So we're really curious as to how that led to your interest in the work that you do as a curator, especially since both of you are in such different fields, right? So it'd be interesting to see how that came to be.
Okay, I think it started during my time in UBD itself because I was the first, one of the first practical final year students. We have this project of creating our own space for the final project. So we were given this space and we have to think about how to present our work. So that is probably the very first of curating I did. After that, when I get to my master degree, I have this final art project, which is combined of digital and art project. We were given the whole gallery itself for creating our artwork. So it was quite exciting, I think. Yeah. Macam di Brunei dah ada benda macam ni. And then tiba-tiba you were given the whole space to yourself. Macam wow, you get the opportunity. Macam you have working with only one person lang to, the technician only. So it's you and the technician, no one else. So what we do is we try to select the things, where to hang it, and then we have to think about the lighting as well. Do you need a shadow? Do you need a smooth shadow or a very rigid shadow? You have to think everything technically. From that time, it gives me the interest of curating. Maybe this is my thing. Oh? Okay, when I get back to Brunei, macam you look for jobs. Kali ada kaya jawatan ketua pameran Pusat Sejarah Brunei. So I try to apply lah. Macam maybe this is the my lah macam so try, alhamdulillah dapat. So that's the starting point lah. Even though it is not an art field, but in a way that curating is part of the art and design itself. It is quite challenging, yes, but it doesn't stop there. It always changes, always challenging our on design sides lah. But that the thing we tried, and we also keep on moving with trends as well, so that the Brunei history itself become more attractive to our youngster, especially the Gen Zs. Yeah. Gen Z siapa back ngakun. Okay, so yeah, that's our target lah.
As you said, macam during the master degree, obviously it's different than how macam masa ni you work kan. I would say apa yang samanya and apa the
huge difference is the product itself.
The product itself, okay.
Our product is more on narrative, storylines. So all the information that are being collected by our researchers is going to be our subject. Okay, so for creating for example, making galleries, we have to know what is our focus is. Okay, there are a lot of history that we can tackle on. So what we do is that we focus on one thing. For example, like National Day. So what we want to show in National Day. So starting the introduction, when it started, why it started. Okay. From there, we for the based on perisiannya, the content, we will look through the evidence. We will look through the all the manuscripts, all the records, and also all pictures.
Yeah.
So we collected all, and then try to work with other teams as well, designers as well as interior designs.
So basically same macam mesti do research dulu lah.
Yes,
So, yeah.
research is very important.
How far back should I go? Okay. Naturally, for me, art has always been in my family, as my father, Haji Osman, is a master watercolor artist. So from a very young age, I was exposed to that. For me, it was always that comparison where people would be like, oh, Osveanne, of course you can draw. Your father's an artist.
Yeah, the expectations.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And because of that expectation, I had always stayed away from art because I was like, I'm going to make my own mark in the world. But here I am. But yes, so I went through first pure science stream, and then I was like, okay, no, maybe once letters came with numbers, I was like, no, don't understand it anymore. Then I went into social science, and I was like, I think I can be a bit lazier.
Yeah.
And then I decided, I know what, I'll do art. And it turned out it's not easy either. In fact, it's a lot harder, but at the same time, while I was going through this, because they make you make these decisions at such an early age without having enough time to actually really explore what you're interested in and understand your interests. I was lucky enough to watch my father kind of create art while I was going through those different phases, to then understand, how much effort, money, time went into it. And there's so many other intangible values that went into what he did. Because when I was watching him and the other veteran artists, go overseas to be able to do, bring their artworks. And some of them, Fukuoka Museum in Japan has collected Zakaria Omar's work, and that same work as well was in the Biennale for Singapore a few years back. And then there's just so many other artists in Brunei, our veteran artists from that generation specifically, who have been collected by overseas artists.
Oh, okay.
I mean, overseas museums and art galleries. So that's a big thing. What else here in Brunei, they're showcasing their art, and people are like, oh, mahal lah.
Yeah.
Or they don't even show up to come and see the artwork. So being able to witness that from a very young age helped to foster this mission for me, where I only realized it a lot later upon coming back and kind of, understanding what was happening in Brunei, what opportunities were there for me as an artist, because that's how I wanted to start out. I was like, I'm going to be an artist. No, become an artist.
Not easy.
Yeah.
Not as easy.
Yeah. It's a very difficult career.
So basically, it's based on your own interest, or macam ada terasa?
More like my own avoidance.
Your
and then
own
I came
avoidance.
full circle.
Okay. Then turns out to be an artist.
Yes. I realized I couldn't be an artist. I was like, actually, curating sounds more like me. So my strength is more in the management, organization, administration side of things. Technical ability, yes, we have it, but I don't know. It's a bit hard to keep on producing.
Yeah.
Especially when we understand you don't have to be an artist to be able to support an artist or the art movement or the art community, because there's so many other aspects that require that kind of attention and care, and for somebody to move it for the entire community to be able to go forward and create that value, create that movement.
I mean, from that, macam from what you said, so what is your perspective on Bruneians? I mean, generally in Bruneians, macam untuk the point of view to art exhibition in Brunei, macam is it dorang receive it well or macam oh art gallery si judge betul?
I think the notion of an art gallery nowadays is a lot more accepted compared to 10 years ago. So 2010s. I would say then if you said art gallery, orang takut sikit because they're like white box, clinical walls, cannot touch the art, I don't know where to stand.
Yeah, more at a museum lah.
Yes, so that, and a lot of people, especially the locals who did not have the opportunity to be able to travel overseas, had not experienced before. So anything that's different is scary, right?
Yeah.
So to be able to have, kind of grow a space that welcome anybody from all different ages and make them feel comfortable to be able to go in and experience art, that was one of the biggest challenges. So we managed to overcome that. Naturally, we see more of the younger crowd because you guys are eager to express yourselves, as well as to be able to share your dialogue and also interact with one another. Yeah, they're a lot more welcoming to this kind of scene. Whereas on our older generation, there are a select demographic that do like it, and it's growing because they're looking at the younger generation, and it's always somebody's chuchu, somebody's daughter, etc. Where they're going to take interest in them. So as long as the younger generation involve their older generation, their predecessors, that will help to grow the value and grow the understanding for the arts and culture.
Yeah, slowly kind of accept that.
Yeah, so it becomes a norm,
absolutely.
when we sit around the dinner table together and talk about an exhibition rather than a K-drama on TV. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but it's just a shift of mindset and a shift of values that will really help the arts and culture in Brunei.
Yeah. So, moving on. This is more towards the operation. I know you guys explained a little bit sudah on what's step by step, but can you guys give us more details, step by step on what you guys do? So there is start towards the end lah.
There are a lot of process. Okay,
Thank you.
don't talk about budgeting. That's a part of it. Okay.
Of course.
What we do is that we focus on two things: the appreciation, narrative side, and as well as the design. Okay, for the narrative side, will be handled by our history officer itself. So he will or she will collect all the data, and we will help to choose which photos or which illustration that we have to make, because in most historical event we don't have photos, right?
Yeah.
The all event macam peristiwa perang we don't have any photos, we don't have any illustration as well. But kalau luar negeri, they have even illustration for the war itself.
Yeah.
So in Brunei, we are lacking of these kinds of evidence. So what we do is that we cooperate with our illustrator to picturize the event itself.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
We are trying to do that to attract the younger generation.
Yeah.
So other than that, for the designs, we usually go through the space first. We survey the space. Is it needed to be renovated? Does it need to do another wall on the side? No. Okay. What we do is that after we survey, we do a layout. So our interior designs do a layout where we try to plan what we want to create or what we want to put or organize the things that we needed. To do this, we need to know the narrative. So, kalau hindi tahu perisian, it is quite difficult to know where to put things. Okay, macam in art galleries, probably you have to know how many paintings or how many even the sizes as well, kan?
Yeah.
Correct. Okay. I'll use a case study for mine. In the most condensed form because I think it'll be a bit easier and a bit more applicable, especially for students, as you guys when you're doing Spectrum. So at Creative Space, we've got a project called Emerge Project, and Zubaidah was a part of that for one of our earliest installments, actually. But that's where we started to teach people who came to internship with us on the process of how do you create an exhibition. So my process going through this when I was still doing the management for Creative Space was, of course, we started with research first. So to break it down very simply, I'm going to say it's the pre-event and then during the event and then the post, kind of very similar to what we're doing right now with the filming and everything. So the pre is where all your planning happens. Your planning does include your research. It does include your exhibition design. It does include also your budgeting. And budgeting is one of the biggest aspects that's one of the most difficult things, which is to find a model that is sustainable for all parties involved to be able to continuously give an exhibition or a space longevity. So that is usually like the bare minimum bones, what goes into the pre-planning and then into sort of like the production side. That's where you've got the actual labor going in of understanding, how do I take the exhibition design and then implement it into the space. So that's proper hands-on work. Even the exhibition design, the curating of it goes into the pre. So we're really talking about the care of how do you put up paintings properly, your eye level. So all those technical parts, that goes into the actual event itself. And also during the event itself, that's the opening. So if we are doing press releases or media days, media coverage, or private viewings as well, whoever is doing internships to also learn how to give the tour, because that's very important. That's part of being able to make sure that, number one, you know your content, and of course, whoever internship, that's the most important part for them to be able to tell the story of the exhibition itself when they give the tour. Of course, the day-to-day stuff, like being able to record how many sales they make and everything. So that's the during. And then the post is a debrief of being able to close the project. So being able to tally all the sales they've made and understand, did this exhibition, was it able to make a return of investment or return of capital? Did we make profit? Because the idea of kind of placing this model to the Emerge project was to ensure that there would be longevity. We can do a next Emerge because what we have done is we've created a fund, and it's a fund system. So the current exhibition is making funds for the future exhibition.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So that means, whatever is made, and then of course we then developed it later on for artists to even sell their merchandising there, so that artists would be able, if they didn't sell their artworks, either if it was not for sale or if it was not necessarily bought in that exhibition, there was merchandise which they would be able to make a return of investment in terms of their expenses, creating their artwork as well as their merchandising. And through that process, we also give advice on pricing, on market testing for the artists and also for the interns at Creative Space. So that's what happens in the post. And then we have a big party.
Yeah, big party.
Everybody's hard work. And we usually have, make sure that everybody's there, the artists, as well as the interns, because they play a very big part. It's literally as if I plucked you guys and you would be the ones doing an exhibition from scratch. Yeah.
So obviously, there's a difference between the two of you. Yeah, experience in curating. So we're gonna dive into how Creative Space has constantly changing exhibition and Pusat Sejarah has a fixed exhibition. So how does that factor affect your managed exhibition?
For Pusat Sejarah, we have actually 6 gallery stores permanent galleries, yes. And we have one changing gallery actually.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
But this one changing gallery only being changed once a year or twice a year. Depends on the exhibition that we, new exhibition that we make. Okay, for these exhibitions, for galleries, we are more likely focusing on how to taking care of it because one of the gallery itself is the old building of Lapau Lama, which is a royal ceremonial hall, which used for the sultan and for the constitutional process. So that building is built, I think, around 1950 something. So that is one of the oldest building in Brunei lah. So what we do is that we try to take good care of it because since Brunei pun cuacanya anda menentukan, so there are a lot of leaking on roof and so on. We have to take care of the building. At the same time, we have to take care of the exhibition itself. Don't want it to macam buat mahal-mahal and then rusak kata. So we have to take care of it. And other than that, one of the oldest gallery that we make is 11 years ago.
11 years.
Yes, 11 years ago. At first, our galleries is only focusing on narrative though. Banyak storyline. There are a lot of storylines, not a lot of pictures, not a lot of photos or illustration. Illustration pun satu saja kali. Okay, so that is that time the trend is people reading. Masa ni orang macam dia banyakkan membaca. So the Gen Zs, they prefer to use tablets and pictures. So we try to move towards the trend. So we are focusing on creating illustration and searching for old photos as well as the use of technologies to create more activities for the audience. Yeah, the visitors.
So you said there's 5 yang
Six permanent
one
galleries.
yang constantly
One yang
changing every
galleries.
year
Yeah.
or 2 years kan tak?
Uh-huh.
What about the other 5? Apa yang you guys
The
do?
other 5 we the first gallery is the genealogy gallery, family tree of the Sultan.
Oh.
Okay, so that is focusing on the family tree lah. And then the second one is focusing on the manuscript collection of manuscript in Borneo. There are 50 collected manuscript, and then a few saja yang exhibited on the galleries because it is quite expensive, so we have to choose lah. The third one is the old Brunei history. Thus, from there, we are moving to the modern side of Brunei history, which is on Sultan Bolkiah punya reign. Okay, that is where Brunei luas kan tu, meluas. So we try to exhibit through the history and of the Sultan Brunei. Masa tu pun macam focusing on belayar. So we try to create a space using kapal sana. So we try to make the space is more engaging towards the installation. Okay, by putting kapal di sana, so people will try to ambil gambar and then try to play around there. Sekolah started to datang ke gallery lah. Masa tu, yes. Tours, and then moving towards the newest gallery, more besar lah, focusing on college institutions, also from the other sectors as well, and not only from local but also luar negeri lah yang datang. For COVID, we reached around, if I'm not mistaken, 8,000. Yes, around that size of statistic. Yeah, we are trying to get back all the audience, so that's why renovation is needed for galleries.
So how about you? How does it affect of how you manage the exhibition?
It affects it very much because we try and look at our calendar in a quarterly basis, and it highly is dependent on the blackout periods as well for Brunei. So that makes it quite challenging. So there are factors like that. Other factors do include seasonality. So what we do try and look at is public holidays as well, which gives people more opportunities to be able to come and see the exhibitions. The other thing is also similar to Pusat Sejarah is We try and target school holidays because that is possibly when, teachers can help to organize a school trip for their students to be able to come over and experience art and culture at the gallery. There's just so many factors as well. It does depend on manpower that we have at that time as well. But that's really getting into the nitty and gritty of operations rather. But in a year, we're usually looking at a quarterly calendar. So every 3 months, that is our target. So 4 exhibitions in a year, but we do end up having more than 4 exhibitions in a year.
All right, so the next section we're going to be focusing on is engagement. As part of our final year, we're taking a curatorship class and we'll be preparing our own exhibition next year. So one thing that does get mentioned is this idea of telling a narrative, and that has been mentioned a lot with what you guys have been saying. How do you personally approach storytelling and structuring a narrative within exhibition work? I know you mentioned that there are like different galleries for like different sections.
Like I said, we are trying to get these young generations, right? So to engage with them is we try to move through the trends.
Yeah.
So adding technologies as well. And other than that, is like we do a lot of programs in Pusat Sejarah, like activities or workshop seminars. Audience for that programs will eventually going to the gallery itself, because to go to the hall you have to go through the galleries. So they will rupanya ada gallery cuma tu. They will surprise.
What about as an art curator?
Usually it comes through conversation or it comes through listening. And I think that's a very important tool as well, because there's no point putting up an exhibition that your audience doesn't want to see. So a good example would be slightly post-COVID, where we did Contoh exhibition. And Contoh exhibition, the narrative was built through my conversations it started with 2 other artists. And it started with something as simple as, you all remember when chicken nuggets were so hard to find?
Yeah.
So our panel discussion was actually based on that. It was based literally, if you have a look on Creative Space, there's a poster with chicken nuggets on it, and that was our gallery panel talk, where we were discussing actually a deeper issue, which was to do with supply chain and mass-produced goods. What happens when we have a big disruption? And that's exactly what we were experiencing, because there was no chicken nuggets, amongst other things. So on our side at Creative Space, or even myself as a curator, that's really how we start to identify, It's about listening to the general sentiment of the public or from a certain demographic, and understanding what is an important issue for them that they want to be able to discuss. Because art is, how I would say, a great vehicle to be able to carry dialogue. You can't necessarily discuss or express very eloquently sometimes, or it's even perhaps restricted sometimes, but it gives you that platform to be able to convey yourself in a different fashion.
We are moving on towards the ending. What has been your favorite exhibition that you guys have been working on?
To me, we are not only focusing on galleries and exhibitions, right? One of our project is actually outreach project, are participating in Kembara Sejarah, Pameran Kembara Sejarah. Kembara. So it's a tour history exhibition.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So we are moving toward outside instead of staying in the space in the galleries. So we're moving outside, looking for the viewers. What we do is we try to get invitation from schools to promote the history itself, because some of the history subject is not being implemented. So what we do is like go to the schools, at the private or government. We make an exhibition using a portable poster. So other than that, we try to bring in core business, which is researchers. We have also our publication sectors. Okay, so we bring all these teams into our exhibition. So I think that is one of the most my favorite project lah, because we get to go out of the building. So yeah, I think
So
that.
how would you? Your favorite?
My favorite exhibition is very hard because I have a lot of favorites for different reasons. I think I've given honorable mentions to quite a few exhibitions and projects already. I'd like to give one more because the nature of it is different. And it's a challenging one as well in Brunei. So it involves live performance and it's actually a collaborative project.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so project itself was actually created and the organizers are Creative Core. It's called 45 past 7. And we at Creative Space had the honor of being able to collaborate with them 2 times. And in both installations, just very magical things happen. So how the project works is that music is the impetus for artists to be able to create. And in the last installation called Alinea, which kind of means, a new train of thought. So imagine you get interrupted and then you start a whole new line of thought. For that one, I came on the capacity as curator, and we brought on a writer, a sound artist, a dancer, and a visual artist. The sound artist created a soundscape which would trigger each artist, and they were performing all of this live. So we made a huge frame for the visual artist and we trapped her in there and we cling filmed the whole thing. So for nearly 2 hours, she was just in there doing the live performance and actually painting until the entire box that we cling filmed was just covered. And the dancer as well, we had built him an installation that involved the frames as well as the fabric, which he then, it started as something very neat, but towards the end, triggered by the music, he then created a different kind of piece with the installation, True Movement. No artists were hurt in this production.
Okay.
So that's one of my favorite collaborations with Creative Core, as well as different artists from the industry. And I picked that one for live performance. It's a slightly different project compared to all of the exhibitions, but all of them are a little bit my favorite for different reasons.
Would you have any advice for us in regards to curating our exhibition?
You have to know your own artwork first. What do you need? What does it need? So you are looking at the space, the size. We are looking at the lighting as well, and also does it need a sense of hearing to be applied? So you have to think all of these, the needs of the object itself. So from there you can plan what the specification to be applied.
Yeah, because there are 62 of us.
Yeah.
That means 62.
Yeah, every artist need his or its own specification. Yeah.
What about from Osveanne? What advice?
I'm going to echo Zubaidah and echo something we've said throughout, which is you got to do your research first.
Yeah. Okay.
Because the more you understand your content or the narrative even of your work, because that's going to come from the research, from the material that you're pulling from, the better you are going to be able to express it, either visually or orally, if that is, are you doing a sound installation, or through whatever medium that you're going to be using, and then understand how you want it interpreted, again, as Zubaidah said, in a space. How do you want it to affect people as well within the space? Yeah, so those are very important aspects of curating, is how do you communicate what you are trying to express or the feeling that your work is trying to convey to a person within a space. How does the space affect the artwork? How does the space affect the person? And vice versa, all these 3 elements, how do they affect one another to be able to give the outcome that you desire?
That's great. We'll take that into consideration. Thank you very much for your advice. But we are reaching the end of the podcast. So to wrap things up, is there anything you guys would like to promote?
Okay, me first. So come to our galleries, everyone. Our galleries is free. So you can come during the office hours or also on Sundays during the Bandar Kucharia. We open from 9 to 12. So we happily accept any visitors, and if you require a tour, you can write to our principal or our director, request for a tour, and also we will give you activities for the extra activities for the tour itself.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Is that like a paid add-on, or is that free?
No, it's all free.
Oh, it's all free?
It's
That's
all free.
great.
Yeah.
That's
So
awesome.
come.
What about for Osveanne?
So this year has probably been the quietest for me, but I will be working on one exhibition that is going to start at the end of the year. So I have two things to advertise. One is if anybody would like to come and volunteer, I can give you so much experience on being able to do an exhibition and working with artists and create a bigger network for you in the art world. But what's coming up is a spin-off project, or rather an extension project of the Contoh exhibition. I will still be working with a few of the artists from the previous installation, namely Faik Airuddin as well as Yasmin Jaidin. And we're in the midst right now of building up our exhibition statement already. So in December to the early month of 2024, everybody can look forward to the next installation of the Contoh project.
Thank you for coming. We really appreciate for you guys taking your time to come and appear on our podcast and giving the curators the credit they deserve, which this will be helpful for us because we are going to have our own exhibition as well. For the listeners, thank you for listening. And remember, it doesn't have to end here. So stay curious, keep unveiling new things and about the people and the world around us. One way to do that is to follow us at UBD Spectrum on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, or X, and YouTube, because we always have something new in store. And head over on our TikTok at Behind the Spectrum, where we unveil what goes on behind the spectrum. We'll be back with new episode, so see you then.
Hey, bye.